FM and its management. Attorney Nathaniel Lee, a lawyer with credibility, success, and experience. Representing people in hundreds of jury trials, Nathaniel Lee is who you want by your side in the courtroom. You've seen the rest, now hire the best. Contact Lee, Cosell, and Feigley today. And now, to address the legal concerns of the community, Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM presents Legally Speaking. Here are his hosts.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining our weekly radio show. Today I have some VIP special guests and assistant, Attorney Vanita Banks, Masters in Tax, expert research analyst, and Attorney Marlon Prime, formerly with the Department of Justice. And before we get started today, a couple announcements. Big Radio is hosting a community forum at our law firm today. So at 531 East Market Street, feel free to join the mayor, the prosecutor, and various elected officials for this important event. We have free food and entertainment. Bring your kids, and there's entertainment for the kids. So it should be a fun affair starting at 6 o'clock this evening, and also going to be in the rooftop of the law firm. So that's 531 East Market Street in Annapolis. Come out today. No fees, no costs. You get to meet some of your city leaders and just a community forum. This week, there were some bombshell decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court. And thanks to the gentleman that I met today at McDonald's, we'll start off with the story about birthright citizenship. And I think that it's important to get the context of what this is all about. I was watching TV one day and I saw this birthright citizenship issue come to clear focus. It dealt with a story about Sunny Isle Beach, Florida. Now, Sunny Isle Beach, Florida, for the people who never visit there, is on the north side of Miami, like North Miami, then Sunny Isle Beach. Sunny Isle Beach is probably one of the wealthiest condo areas in America. It's really nice condos. On the top level, you pay between $5 to $20 million for a condo on these high-rise units. But it also become a popular destination for Russian women seeking to give birth in the United States and obtain U.S. citizenship for their children. Now, this practice, as I saw on the TV, was referred to as birth tourism. It involved pregnant women traveling to the U.S., typically on tourist visas, to deliver their babies and secure American citizenship for them. Sunny Isle Beach has a very large Russian-speaking population and earned the nickname of Little Russia due to the influx of the numerous Russian family. Now, what does this have to do? Well, birthright citizenship has been around since our constitutional reform. It's contained in the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which for centuries has granted automatic citizenship to anyone born on American soil, regardless of their parents' immigration status. Now, the benefits of U.S. citizenship offers various advantages, including the ability to live, work, and study in the United States without immigration restrictions, and the potential for their parents to later obtain green card through their child's citizenship. And there's a lot of reasons why people do that. And they were saying, when I watched this on TV, that the cost of birth tourism can range from $20,000 to $100,000 for some family who are willing to pay for the perceived benefits. Now, that's the headline. And this story, the Supreme Court decision came out, and maybe I can have someone who worked for the Justice Department explain that to us. Attorney Prime, what's going on with this 14th Amendment case?
Yes. Well, it really comes from our history and the notorious decision in Dred Scott in 1857. And if many of you all will remember in the audience, that this is one of the most infamous decisions of the United States Supreme Court. And it was a question of whether or not an African American was a citizen of the country, and the court basically determined that his parents were slaves brought to the country, or enslaved people, and that the Constitution did not provide any protection for him. And so that, of course, led to the Civil War, and then the post-Civil War amendments. We had the 14th Amendment that really sought to kind of deal with this particular issue, that if you are born in the United States, you are a United States citizen. So it was initially meant to cover African Americans, former enslaved persons, but it was expanded in the late 1800s to include a Chinese immigrant who, had a child born in the United States. So it's been part of our, the court precedent for a number of years. So when this administration came into power, they issued an executive order saying that hey, they were no longer going to honor this precedent. And then the number of states came in and filed what's known as an emergency action. And what that basically means is that a regular lawsuit may take a year or two to process, and you have the opportunity to file an emergency proceeding because you think there's a clear and present danger there's going to be harm. So they filed that emergency proceeding, and basically there was a nationwide injunction that stopped the administration from enacting what many people have called, unconstitutional, provision. So the administration pushed back and says, hey, we should not give these federal district courts that are, basically judges in one federal judicial district power to enjoin the entire United States government around the country. So that filtered up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court basically ruled, and gave some relief to the administration, indicating that there were limitations on what an individual federal judge could do in terms of blocking prerogatives of the administration. So they didn't really get to the question of whether or not birthright citizenship is constitutional or not, and they didn't overturn that precedent. But the thing that's troubling for a number of us is that a number of these courts have been the only check and balance on the executive branch when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion policies, and now we talk about the issue of birthright citizenship. And the court basically said that, hey, the Trump administration is right, and that, hey, this district court may have overstepped its bounds. And basically, it looks as though the only remedy would be doing a class action. And as Attorney Lee knows and has handled these cases, those are pretty cumbersome and very difficult to assemble. So I don't know if that's an appropriate alternative to really challenge, what many of us believe is clearly unconstitutional edict being set forth by the administration.
Well, Attorney Bink, this is a fascinating story. The reason being, in 2023, when I look at the data, there was about 3.1 million people died in the United States, but we had about 3.2 million birthed in the United States. So we have a very low increase in population. But the problem is, depending on what study you look like, about 18% of the folks who were born in America are from foreign immigrants that were not American citizens. So if you take away the foreign birth rates in the United States population will start declining. And so the question is this a sound decision for the United States, which is a country of immigrants? And where should we land on this type decision? Should the 14th Amendment apply and be sacrosanct, or should the court carve out exceptions to the 14th Amendment?
The Fourth Amendment absolutely should be and is sacrosanct in no uncertain terms. And it's important to understand that this decision limits the power of courts, district courts, to issue nationwide injunctions on Trump's executive orders. And to Attorney Prime's point, that may make executive orders much harder to challenge in the future. But everyone keep in mind that the case focused on nationwide injunctions, not the constitutionality of the um, administration's ban on birthright citizenship. And this executive order will not go into effect for another 30 days, and lawsuits have already been filed, Attorney Lee and Primes, as you well know, to address this issue. This Justice Amy Coney Barrett kicked this back to the district courts. And Attorney Primes, I'm interested in your views on what exactly will the district courts be doing over the next 30 days as they address this issue.
Yeah, I mean, what they're going to basically have to do is just try to figure out, what the edict is from the Supreme Court in terms of whether or not they overstep their bounds as it relates to, having a national injunction. So the counter argument is, in Amy Coney Barrett's words, that if you're challenging the executive branch for overstepping its bounds. According to her opinion, and she was the author of the opinion in this case, the remedy is not having a district court overstep its bounds. So they basically slap these cases back to the district court to figure out whether or not, these nationwide injunctions, what are some of the limitations on that? And the dissenting opinions, I think, are, and often the case, the dissenting opinions can kind of give you a great sense of where we're going. And Justice Sotomayor, as well as Ketanji Brown Jackson, indicated that the remedy is going to be perhaps class action certifications to stop the administration on clearly unconstitutional, matters. So it's going to be really interesting because these cases will eventually filter their way back up to the district court. But the challenge is going to be if there's no way to restrain the administration when they're acting, against precedent, and it's going to have to be a district by district litigation. And there are 94 federal judicial districts around the country, so you have 94 separate cases that could have different results, or you have class action certification from one federal district court, and that can be fraught with a number of different issues in terms of getting the class certified and what have you. So I think the concerns of Justice Sotomayor, she was concerned, as well as Justice Jackson were concerned, that, hey, the court really didn't address the fact that, in her view, this was clearly unconstitutional in terms of just banning birthright citizenship. And there was a concern about not dealing with that issue and then not giving district courts the remedies to deal with, in her words, clearly unconstitutional conduct by the administration.
Okay, Imhotep, you have a question or comment for us today on this subject. Go ahead, sir. You're on mute.
Good morning.
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Attorneys, Brother Lee, thank you for taking my call. I'm just getting back from a week in Los Angeles early this morning, and just got up and wanted to make sure I caught you all. I got a small little report I'd give of what I saw. I drove all over from Thousand Oaks and Sherman Oaks all the way to Manhattan Beach and in between. So the reports from the news out there, I get to this Supreme Court, but I want to get on the immigration thing. The news reports out there, the daily news reports out there, it's staggering. I didn't personally see any ICE or any there is complaints from Mayor Karen Bass, and I think there's a bill in California being drawn up either from the LA Council to restrict the LA police from helping ICE. That's been an issue out there. They're grabbing citizens. They are grabbing citizens. That was the theme I saw every day when I looked at the news. Someone they grabbed was a citizen. or they deported a person who was in the military to Jamaica, who was born on a United States base from their father in Germany, and this person gets deported to Jamaica. He's never been there a day in his life. It's a mess. It's truly a mess. I didn't know until when you get out there on the ground, there's no reason for him to be doing what he's doing. It's no reason for this. It's no reason from what I can see. That needs to be stopped. The a question was asked you last week, Brother Nate. Who do we have around to stop this? And we see we have a compromised Supreme Court. They're basically kingmakers, and none of this should be going on out there. I don't like the fact if people are here illegally, you should run them through the process. We have a process. We have a Soviet nation of laws. Pick them up. They should have a lawyer. They should be able to get a bail. They should have a hearing. That kind of stuff is not happening. And so it's deeper than that. Now I can see now for sure. Because I was like you last week, it wasn't my fight. Well, we got a problem because they are picking up citizens. They're picking up citizens. So that's for sure. Going to this, the Supreme Court decisions, I got a book in front of me I got to start reading called The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. And I've read about Mr. Fanon for years, and it seems like that's what we got, the wretched of the earth going on. That's the decision about birthright citizenship, though. Barron needs to be gone in, and many others, if they have it their way, put it that way, after October. I think it's over decision come down in October, what I read. Maybe you all can correct me on that. But then it's gonna be a whole lot of problems for a whole lot of other people, since he wants to make it a claim that it was just for the children of the enslaved. What happens to the people who were born before the 13th Amendment? The Sally Hemings group and all those type of family members and stuff like that, who those people wasn't citizens before the 13th Amendment, even though they were enslaved.
Hey, Imhotep, here's the problem. Imhotep, here's the problem that I saw. In 2023, 18% of the babies born in America were to illegal immigrants. And the study I was reading, I'm not sure how accurate it was, says 13% of the people in America, 13% were the result of illegal immigrant, 13%. So we have 335 million people. So you do the math, was that about 45 million people in America that are born in America through their parents weren't citizens of the United States. So what do you do with the people now who've been determined to be American citizen, which is more than 10% of the population in America? So you make a new rule. What happened to those folks? So you go back and revoke their citizenship?
And then how you going to deport 45 million people? But here's the funny thing, the crazy thing that I learned yesterday from a local down there, because I'm as a military veteran, I was confused. I guess being born here and I know I had to show my birth certificate when I signed up for the United States Air Force. Okay, but I was told that I was asked a person, I said, well, how does an immigrant serve in the military and then yet still doesn't become a citizen? And I never got the answer to that, because in my opinion, if you were able to join the military, then you should be made a citizen upon finishing your tour. You should automatically be a citizen, because there are many people who served in the military that are being caught up in this and being deported. And it's like, I don't understand that. Okay, how are you even taking them? So I was told if you got temporary protection status, or if you got a green card or something like that, you could sign up. Maybe you all know more than me about that. Because when being a citizen, I know I served my birth certificate because I was in high school. I know I didn't give just a high school ID. I know they had to see my birth certificate. So I was trying to figure that out. And I was told if you got a green card, or if you got temporary status, something like that, you can join the military. Okay, then the United States needs to answer for that. If you got all these people who served you had a gentleman who got shot in Panama in the conflict in Panama in 1989, got shot in the back. You have a Purple Heart recipient out here in California, Purple Heart recipient, and he got deported back to South Korea, and he's been gone for 44 years. You should be made a citizen. If you've served in this military, there is no reason why in the world you should not become a citizen then, because you've actually given time to people who ain't served. That's another caveat. Right?
Here's the problem. There's perception. What most people in America don't understand is that the so-called illegal immigrants, migrants, or whatever cluster that you put the folks in, I saw that in the bill they said they were want to prevent these folks from getting Medicaid or medical assistance, right? The problem is the folks that they're trying to prevent from getting medical care and assistance pay a substantial billions and billions of dollars in taxes. Most people don't understand that the illegal immigrants are paying taxes just like the American citizen. They just don't get the benefit of unemployment or Social Security. So
Right.
what is saving our Social Security Trust Fund is not the American workers, but the immigrants. I saw that they put in $89 billion into the fund, money that they would never get back. So I think that most people don't have an understanding that the immigrants are the backbone of our country now. They're the ones that are cleaning the toilets, cleaning the building, the hotels. You can't go to almost any restaurant here in Indianapolis, for example, and not see immigrants working behind the counter at these low-wage jobs. And so
putting the roofs on, bone dry roofing, they all on the roofs, helping put these roofs on all over the place. That's mostly who you see on the roofs. You expect, doing roofing jobs and stuff like that. So, and it's hot up there. But I want to ask you all another one about that this Supreme Court decision that they gave that gentleman the ability. They found for that gentleman. He was shocked me that they cited that they went ahead and heard the case of the gentleman that complained about either it was something dealing with his religion or something in the justice system, and then the one about the opting out the schools in Texas if there's if the parents don't like the teaching. They frame it around LGBTQ, but we know now that, especially in Texas, that they're going back with Black history and all this stuff too. They didn't want that taught. I thought that decision should have been a little bit better too, because they frame it as LGBT, but then we know in Texas they just passed all those laws to outlaw any teaching of Black history. If you're a teacher and you're caught even talking about it in history, they can fire you and all stuff like that. Texas is crazy, man. So just want to throw it out there. It was a learning experience. Really watching that news for 6 days, driving around, seeing what's going on, but just looking at the 10 of the people. Oh, they did. The economy is hurting. Food trucks are not out like they used to be. A lot of Latinos. That's a heavily Latino populated area. They are in hiding. Pasadena and other cities just canceled their 4th of July fireworks because they don't want the citizens in their cities to be attacked. So it's a mess. It's a mess. But from what I see, it shouldn't be being done if you're not going to deport Eastern Europeans. If you're not going to deport these Eastern Europeans, then what are we doing here? So thanks for taking my call.
thank you.
Attorney Lee, I've stated on this call several times that 2015 was the first year that more minority babies were born in this country than majority babies. And we are and always have been a nation of immigrants. And you're absolutely right about everything that you're saying about how we are the backbone of our economy. And American citizens, those born in the United States, without question and aside from the issue of birthright citizenship, should be concerned about this decision, which could be extended to all of us under this imperial presidency. And those of you who watched the press conference yesterday witnessed how they spin the narrative that this particular decision should make all Americans feel safe, that these were lawless injunctions that turned the district courts into imperial judges. The president, or specifically Pam Bondi, stated that the president has the authority to do whatever he wants, and that this was a great day for the rule of law. And as Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson stated, this decision and these actions are an existential threat to our democracy and the rule of law. And they're conflating birthright citizenship with this notion that, and he stated yesterday, that there are hundreds and thousands of illegal immigrants entering this country and they are butchering American citizens. So that's the kind of rhetoric that he's throwing out there. And of course, when he makes a statement about the quote imperial justices, he is doing exactly what he's saying that they're doing. And so, but again, it's important to remember that this decision was not on the merits of the constitutionality of birthright citizenship. That decision is left for a later day, but it does make it harder to object to some of his executive orders.
I think we got to think about the impact of this. Do we really want, individuals to go into the shadows? Because that's kind of the implication of this. That if you're, saying they're not citizens, we already have, legislation in a number of states indicating that if you're not a citizen, you can't get, education, you can't get medical care. We've already been through a pandemic. I mean, is it really in our best interest to have a substantial part of our population that's afraid to go get medical care, afraid to get educated? These are things that are going to have an adverse impact on us all. And in fact, before the recent conservative swing in our country, Texas did provide educational benefits for those that were not U.S. citizens under this same theory. So it's only been a relatively recent phenomenon that you're going to deny anybody that's not a U.S. citizen access to medical care, education, things of that sort. Now, what they're trying to do is by not having the birthright citizenship, and that's ultimately what they're after. That would be an impetus for the parents leaving, and that would be able to fulfill a campaign promise to mass deport or have people self-deport is kind of what they're looking at.
Well, here's the conundrum that you have to look at in our legal system. During the Biden administration, he made a promise to do student loan forgiveness. The president has pardon powers, is a government that is a government obligation, and it seemed like a pretty logical thing that the president could do with an executive order. The Supreme Court disagreed. They limit the power of the president. This same Supreme Court limited the power of the president of the United States to issue an executive order. Moreover, at no point did they say that a district court judge could not impose a nationwide ban. It was okay. Now they've done legal gymnastic in saying that, no, you can't do that. You need to do it in the area where the complainants are. So we've seen a complete reversal that caused many to maybe lack confidence in what the court is now doing. You can't just be that inconsistent in such a short period of time. But
that's okay. A great point. It's my understanding that nationwide injunctions can be issued under specific circumstances. And as a result of this case, I'm unclear what that even means anymore. But we've seen criticism of nationwide injunctions in both administrations. We saw that criticized in specific circumstances under the Biden administration as well.
Yeah. Okay, Carl, you have a question or comment for legal issues today. Go ahead. Caller, you're on mute. Unmute, please. Hello, caller? Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Lee. How you doing, sir?
Great.
First of all, I appreciate the opportunity for the forum, and you do a great job not only as a practicing attorney, but also as a moderator of a forum, which I believe is open to everyone. Anyway, picking up on what you and your guests and a couple of your callers have conveyed upon in the last half hour, the two biggest adversaries, if that's the proper word, of the Black community are the LGBTQ group and the millions of illegal aliens. They've done more in the last a couple decades per se, to squeeze the community out of work, funds, education, medical services, whatever, whoever, whenever, okay? And like, I wanted to share that with you. And also, here's another thing that people need to really ponder about. You hear the word, I hear it, and I'm sure your guest does, the word reparations. I have a hunch, and I've heard this from other, even national talk show hosts, I won't give the name, that the Democrat, I call them Dramacrat, party has given, quote, some of that reparation money to the illegal aliens, not illegal immigrants, folks, illegal aliens, and to the LGBT group. I'll leave it at that, sir. Thanks for having me, and have a great weekend.
Well, caller, I'm unfamiliar with, in terms of the distribution of funds. In essence, the number one groups that have gotten government assistance has not been any particular group, but primarily been farmers. Farmers have gotten billions of dollars in bailout money as a result of tariffs being imposed. And the bailout money is a form of reparation to pay the farmers for loss of their revenue caused by tariffs. And that's the one I'm most familiar with, but I'm not familiar with LBQ and those communities. And the second thing, though, one of the greatest misnomers, sir, is that the immigrants, as a general rule, don't receive government assistance. They don't get unemployment. During the pandemic, while Americans got checks for unemployment for a whole year and a half, the immigrant didn't qualify. And the second thing is that they pay into the Social Security Trust Fund, but they are not eligible to receive Social Security benefits nor Medicare. So the net result is that they pay for this. And the only reason we can somehow have enough money for us as we retire is to have immigrants paying into that who are not getting the money back, because America now, we're not having the significant population growth. You know, we have about 3.3 million people new birth each year, and then we have about 3.2 million deaths. So as a general rule, our population is not growing, the workforce is not growing to support the retirement that we all put money into the system for. But Attorney Prime, any additional comments, or Banks?
Yeah, we just have to be very careful that we're not turning on one another, that we're really, focusing in on the moment that we're in. I think that's something that we have to focus in on as well. I think that, regardless of what group you're in, I think people just all want the same thing. They want to be able to raise their family, they want a decent job. And so we have to make sure that we're not demonizing any particular group and recognizing the Constitution protects all of us.
That is so true, Attorney Primes. All of us, and when I have conversations with different people every single day, diverse people, and if you talk to people, what you will find is that most people just want to do exactly what you said: raise their family, educate their family, Attorney Primes, be able to put food on the table, and most importantly, to live in peace. And it's just critical that we learn to treat every human with dignity and respect.
And there's something that Imhotep said earlier too about the military. I forgot to mention at the time. When I was in the military, it was mandatory draft at the time. The mandatory draft of soldiers in America ended in 1973. I know that to be a fact because I was in the military at the time, and I was in the company at in Louisiana, Fort Polk, that had the last name William that got drafted. They did a story about him. Now, the reason that's important when you as a teenager, you received a draft notice and you had to show up at the down at a center to get a physical examination, and then you would later be classified like A1, whatever it is, and then you had to be shipped out to a training base. So the weird thing about it, I presented no ID. I just had a letter that had my name on it and directed me to go to the center, and it was mandatory. And so, contrary to most people believe, I didn't show a birth certificate, ID, none of that. I just had a letter. I was just thinking about that. I didn't have to present a driver's license. I know things have changed now, but that's the way it was back then. But the second thing that is a corollary that we didn't discuss, the 800-pound gorilla, is that I watched Don Lemon's show last night on YouTube, and it dealt with the bombing of Iran. And he was showing the history of Netanyahu and talking about, and a lot of people are saying that America is safer because we bomb Iran. But Don Lemon showed about 15 clips of Netanyahu saying the same thing. Starting in 1995, he was saying that Iran is building nuclear weapons, and unless we bomb them now, or whatever it is, we're less safe. And so all these years, one person led this crusade about Iran nuclear capability. And then so he himself had his country to then start a war with Iran. And then the United States unleashed this B-2 bomber, and they bombed Iran nuclear site, 3 of the sites. So what's been in the news all week, one, a lot of people talked about the legality. So now are the aggressive nation where we have attacked a foreign country. But the second issue is that they were claiming that Iran has had these weapons of mass destruction. The problem, though, is that since 1995, Netanyahu has said the same thing every year. And so did we get involved in the war based upon a foreign leader request? And if so, what's going to be the likely consequence? Do you think that even if these countries reach some type of peace agreement, that there at some point in the future that they're going to retaliate against America?
Well, yeah, I'm very concerned about that as well, Nathaniel. And one of the things that your audience has to, you perhaps recall is that when President Obama was in office, he negotiated a treaty with Iran where there would be strict monitoring and ensure that they would not have the capacity to build a nuclear weapon. And if your audience recalls, it was Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, who took the unusual step of coming to the United States and speaking before Congress, castigating a deal that President Obama worked out. And I think, President Obama basically, predicted this moment. Hey, either you have a deal or you're going to have to, have, a particular war. And we don't want another war in the Middle East. So, it's really disconcerting. I think that we do have to learn from our past mistakes. Many of you may remember in the 1990s, we were told about weapons of mass destruction, and there was some concern about the accuracy of that. So before we get ourselves into a war, we have to understand that these things are not quick processes. It wasn't a quick process in Iraq. It certainly wasn't a quick process in Afghanistan. There are a number of Americans that passed away. So you have to be very careful before you engage in any foreign wars, and you have to let diplomacy work. So I really feel for President Obama in terms of what he was trying to do. Your listeners may recall that when the President Trump got in for his first administration, he basically just ripped up the agreement. And Iran basically said, well, hey, why are we negotiating again? We already had a deal. So, that doesn't really make us safer. So those are some things that are very concerning. And, just goes to another point of what you emphasize every week is just the importance of individuals registering to vote and being part of the political process, because it can have substantial impact on all of us.
Okay, back to our caller. Caller, you have a question or comment for us? Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, caller.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
go ahead. Go ahead. I can hear you. Go ahead. You
Hello?
keep cutting.
Hello?
There's a caller cell
I don't know
phone,
what-
Anna, has been waiting. That call.
Okay, go ahead, caller.
Can you hear me now, Brother Nate?
No, we're going to the first caller.
Okay, then we'll come back. Go ahead.
Hello,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
am I the first caller?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
This is Guy calling. We can kind of, like my father used to say, you can talk an issue to death and you keep talking about it, but I think we're going to have to take specific action if we want change. And that specific action, I believe, has to start with holding the people that are elected accountable. For instance, when the Supreme Court made their decision, which said the president has certain powers that he can use, it didn't say unlimited power he can use. It said basically, in my understanding, that he has power, but he has checks and balances. Those checks and balances include Congress. And when you have a Congress that is not representing the people, then the people have to, in other words, the Congress is composed of representatives of the people. So if they're not doing their job, if they can't read the bills that they pass, for example, then the people themselves have to read the bills and put the pressure on the representatives. And I don't think we're doing that. What do you think?
I see that every day. It's a horror story, caller. We have a political party in power now that are acquiescent to conduct that I think not only is outside of the normalcy, but I'm not sure of the legality of it. I'm troubled by that because I think we have a threat to democracy itself that we're seeing before our own eyes. We saw a military parade to honor a presidency that cost millions of dollars. We see that type of conduct in foreign countries, in dictatorships. The military should never be a political pawn. Military is for our protection. I served, my brother served, my dad has served, and it's to protect and serve the citizens of the United States, not to bend over to a dictator. And so you take an oath for the United States of America. And so I think that what we're seeing is a radical departure of democracy itself in front of our own eyes. And that's what I see.
And the framers of the Constitution, they anticipated this. And if you look at Federalist Paper number 51, wherein they speak about the three branches of government and the importance of checks and balances and to constrain the power of a potential imperial president. When we look at birthright citizenship just as one issue, and this administration and others have been looking at that for years and desiring to end it. And these proposals are clearly laid out in Project 2025 and speaks to, as we state every week, the importance of it's critical to vote in every single election. And I hear guys saying that, and we can't agree enough, that we have to hold our elected officials accountable. And this begins at the local level. We always say that all politics is local. So from your police chief to your school board to your library board, we have to know who these elected officials are or candidates are. We need to know whether or not their ideologies comport with our values. And not to change the topic without any transition, but I'm really interested in New York, Renee, and what happened in the last, the mayor's election this week, and any other comments you might have regarding the topics we've discussed today. Is Renee available to join the call?
She needs to call in.
We have our next caller, Imhotep.
Yeah, go ahead, Imhotep.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, real fast, Brother Nate and Attorney Banks. And Attorney Banks, I'd like for you to answer this question. That was the gentleman that called talking about losing the benefits to immigrants and LGBTQ. Bob, it's outrageous. Called Cameron Sherwood Sunday. He's not black. He's white. It's outrageous. And you're correct, Brother Nate. Farmers do get the most money. I just read a piece from the conservative Cato Institute. They want to end all the subsidies to the farmers. The farmers have gotten $31 billion in subsidies in the last 2 years alone. $31 billion. They also want to end the subsidies to big oil and big gas. Okay, if anybody has stopped black people from getting reparations, it's been white people. Okay, because they're the ones that either had to vote, the votes we couldn't get in Congress. The John Lewis Act still sitting here, not passed. What about that, Bob? We still got the George Floyd Policing Act sitting there. The House passed it under Biden. The Senate never took it up, or was torpedoed by the lady out of Arizona and my man out of West Virginia. But still, those bills have not been brought back up. They haven't been brought back up to be passed. The John Lewis Act should have been passed. The George Floyd Policing Act should be passed. Don't sit up and talk about what someone else's other communities. The very people who have stopped black progress have been white people. And that's the bottom line. You know why? Because white people, they like the comforts of being in charge. They like the comforts of having the white privilege of racism. They like the comforts of these draconian laws being passed. They like the comforts of always blaming someone else when actually it's them. Because make no mistake about it, you see how the Education Department and McMahon say, well, we're not going to garnish senior citizens' Social Security for student loans. You know why? Because the baby boom is going to blow a fit. And you think January 6th was something, you start taking them boomers' money. You got 45 million boomers that's behind on student loans, yet she said they're not going to garnish them. You know why they're going to listen to those boomers? Because the boomers got really money. So, Bob, I don't know if you're a boomer, but if you got boomers in your family, and Medicare is on the table, Medicaid's on the table, and the threat of garnishing Social Security was on the table, you ask them, do they like to hear that? Because no one does.
Here's the problem. It's something that I want everybody in our audience to understand. A skilled politician have often said that if you get the people divided against each other, then they'll go for anything. So what we're seeing in American politics is that we just saw this week a guy named Jeff Bezos spent $55 million for a wedding. He was the CEO of Amazon. I own stocks, unfortunately, in Amazon. But the point is that the billionaire class of people has accelerated. At the same time, the workers' wages don't reflect the success of any of these companies. So if you keep the American people attacking each other, then what we will see occurring is they'll get a pass. There's no financial equity. So this issue about racism is being generated really by politicians who are favoring wealthy folks. Don't forget that. You know, the billionaire people are making more money than they ever made before. We've had more people become wealthier under these policies. At the same time, we see a division between whites, Black, Hispanics, and minorities that's unnecessary. We're engaged in this battle for the wrong reason. And I want you to understand that it's the fact that they're causing this discord among us, and people are buying that. Okay, Renee, you tell us about this fiasco in New York, and how did we get this 30-some-year-old to be the front runner for mayor of New York City? Renee, unmute, please. Go ahead.
Caller, please unmute. Maybe it's not Renee.
Hi. Hi, it is Renee.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I saw this race result in New York City. I don't understand this. How do you get a 33-year-old to be the front runner for mayor of the largest city in the country?
Well, basically because the Dem leadership is blowing it. That's my personal opinion. People are tired of listening to the Democratic leadership talk about how there's nothing they can do because they're not in power. Yes, we understand politically there's not much you could do because you don't have the majority in both the houses or the White House. We get that. But they're doing nothing, like coming out and we want big, new, bold ideas. Now, whether Zoran can get it done or not, who knows? But at least he's willing to try. That's the thing. Americans want to see, and this is not just New York City, Americans want to see their leaders doing something. Let's try. Even if you can't get it done, but at least you understand our plight and what we want. New York City is too expensive. And everything that Zoran says that he wants to see done, it's going to benefit everybody, not just whites, not just Hispanics, not just Muslims or Jews or Black people. It's going to benefit everybody who makes under $150,000 a year or who don't have, or more. Who make $150,000 or more will have to put in a little bit more, but the rest of us, and even $150,000 a year in New York City is not a high wage. So
here's what I don't understand. Hey, Renee, I don't understand. Mm-hmm. So Cuomo ran in the Democratic primary, and I saw a blurb that now he's going to run for mayor as an independent. The current mayor, Eric Adams, is also running as independent. And I guess you have Republicans. So now in your general election, you're going to have essentially what would formerly 3 Democrats, 2 of which are running independent and a Republican. Is that what's shaping up for this fall contest?
Well, that's what it's looking like. I see the problem with that is that, first of all, if Cuomo couldn't outrank Zoran in the primary, there's no way he's going to outbeat him in a general when you got Adams running and the Republican candidate and Zoran. So that's an impossibility. I think Cuomo was put in, and from what I've been reading, Cuomo got money from the Republicans towards his campaign, as well as $25 million for Bloomberg and other Democrats because they didn't want to see Zoran or take it. I think Cuomo is just a spoiler at this point. Somebody is paying, in my personal opinion.
Why does the financial community in New York seem like against Zoran being mayor? What's their beef with him? I don't understand actually.
The beef is that he's not part of the establishment. He's not part of the establishment. He's not part of the same old. And they don't want to see somebody that young get to that position without having gone through the DCCC or the DNC. They want to vet their people to put them in positions, and they're like, how dare this young man just win when we didn't even back him? That's what this is about. It's not about the people in New York City. It's about the leadership. And if you notice, the Dem leadership is attacking him more in the press than the Republicans are, which is crazy. Get behind this candidate. He's the one that won the primary. This is what New Yorkers say they want, the ones that bothered to vote. Then the leadership should get behind them.
In 1 minute or less, tell me exactly what specific policy that you think caused people to vote for this guy.
I can't give you one specific, but okay, I'll give you a general. Everything he said he wants to do is going to help New Yorkers with poverty, help children, seniors, across the whole demographic. Everything that he says he wants to do is going to pull people up instead of having them feel like they're stuck. And like I said, even if he can't get it done, at least maybe he'll get 25% of what he wants to get done. Maybe he'll get 50%. Maybe he'll get all of it done. We just don't know. Give him a chance. That's the reason why everybody is willing to vote for him, because he's a nice guy too. I'm going to tell you, he was the only candidate that knocked on my door, and I have a concierge in my building, so I was surprised when he got to my door. I was like, how did he get up there? And so that talks to people. If you're willing to come out and knock on my door and ask me for your vote and tell me why I should, I said, okay, I'll do some more research and I'll vote for you. And that's why I voted him number one.
Some of his specific policies that he's advocating during his campaign are free buses and childcare, a rent freeze. He talked about the establishment of grocery stores and other things that would be attractive to the everyday working person.
Correct. Thank you, Attorney. Thanks. That's exactly right. So in the summarization, everything that he's talking about will benefit everybody, even the wealthy, even if they don't know it, because if he brings all this stuff into the community, people are still going to be spending money. It's just not going to cost New Yorkers as much. Some of it may be free, but there'll be other ways to make money. But anyway, I don't want to take up the rest of your calling time, but that's my personal view, and I thank you for listening.
Well, keep us informed, Renee. Thank you so much for calling in and updating us on this. The largest city in America is important. It's the financial capital of the world, New York City. So thank you. Well, closing statement, Attorney Banks and Prime, real quickly, we got 1 minute.
Well, these are very interesting times that we're in. Our Supreme Court, again, at the end of the term, has really made it more difficult to rein in the administration. So it's something to be concerned about, and further reason why we need to continue to be engaged in our process.
I'd like us to talk about next week, and of course, this Supreme Court opinion may impact the order by a federal judge yesterday that permanently blocks the executive order against law firm Sussman Godfrey,
right.
And every single law firm that has pushed back against this administration has won.
Well, then the American Bar Association has also filed suit as well on behalf of the law firms that have been impacted by these executive orders. So interesting times that we live in.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, our callers, and join us next weekend as we deal with another legal issue of the day. Thank you, everyone, and be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.